All right, moving on here. We have a pretty important story about how private equity is preying on residents of mobile parks. And we've covered some of this stuff before, but this is kind of an update on it. This, believe it or not, again, is in the Washington Post. We're all afraid massive rent increases hit mobile homes. Park rents are doubling or tripling as high demand, low inventory, and a rise in corporate owners take a toll on one of the nation's biggest sources of affordable housing. For nearly 30 years, Virginia Rubio has lived in a trailer park in Forks, Washington, where monthly rent teeters around $350. Now it's shooting up to $1,000. Rubio, a retired home care aide who lives on food stamps and $860 in Social Security each month, says there's no way to make the math work. She owns the mobile home she shares with her partner and adult daughter, but will soon have to give that up if she can't afford to rent the plot of land underneath it. So understand, you guys, that this is often how mobile parks are set up. You own the trailer itself or the home itself, but you have to rent the land. So the plot of land is still, you're still kind of stuck in the rent cycle for the land to put your home on. Where were we here? Quote, with an increase like this, I don't know what we can do, said Rubio, who is 75. We're all afraid of losing our homes. Surging home prices and rents are cascading down to the country's mobile home parks, where heightened demand, low supply, and an increase in corporate owners is driving up monthly costs for low-income residents with few alternatives. At the same time, private equity firms and developers are often circling nearby, looking to buy up such properties and turn them into more lucrative ventures, including timeshare resorts, wedding venues, and condominiums. Mobile homes have long been one of the country's most affordable housing options, particularly for families who do not receive government aid. About 20 million Americans live in manufactured homes, which make up about 6% of U.S. residences, according to the federal data. Some experts suggest those numbers could soon rise as more people are priced out of traditional houses and apartments. Mobile home prices range from less than $25,000 in Nebraska, Iowa, and Ohio to more than $125,000 in Washington state. Overall, they tend to be 3 to 5 times cheaper than traditional single-family homes, according to an analysis of census data by LendingTree. And guys, I'm in Washington state, so believe me, that $125,000 might sound expensive when you compare it to housing costs, at least in Western Washington right now. That is nothing. And I don't say that at all to minimize how expensive $125,000 is. Believe me, I just say it for a little bit of perspective and to kind of back up their claim here that people are being driven out of other forms of housing and sort of forced into mobile homes, which are now also being exploited by private equity. But rising demand for affordable housing has put particular pressure on the market. Nationally, the average sales price of manufactured homes has risen nearly 50% during the pandemic, from $82,900 to $123,200, census data shows. Meanwhile, average new home prices rose 22% in that period, according to government figures. However, less is known about how much mobile homeowners pay to rent the land under their homes. Lot rents typically rise between 4% and 6% a year, according to industry sources, though there is little data on exact costs or price increases. That lack of transparency is complicated by the fact that few cities or states have rules governing rent increases at mobile home parks. Quote, land prices are going up, housing costs are going up, and that's spilling into mobile homes, said Casey Dawkins, a professor of urban studies and planning at the University of Maryland. There's also an overall shortage of affordable housing, particularly in cities and the suburbs around them. And you can see the chart there showing since January 2020, the price in hundreds of thousands, or I'm sorry, in thousands of mobile homes. At the same time, park owners and operators are facing higher costs for utilities, workers, and property taxes, all of which are likely being factored into higher rents for lots, according to John Pulowski, managing director at real estate research firm Green Street Advisors. In many cases, residents like Rubio said they own the trailer they live in, but don't enjoy the perks of home ownership, like locked-in monthly payments, tax breaks, and appreciating home values, or the flexibility or protections associated with renting. They said they often felt caught in a state of limbo. Their mobile home is their biggest investment, yet it's useless if they can't afford to rent the land on which it sits. Moving a mobile home, if it is new enough to be moved at all, can cost as much as $15,000, which means residents are often beholden to the parks where they live. Many municipalities also have rules governing when and how trailers can be transported. Quote, you have a captive audience in mobile home parks, said Kate McTavish, an associate professor at Oregon State University, whose research focuses on affordable housing and trailer parks. They may own their homes, but they can't just pick up and move. In interviews with a dozen mobile home residents around the country, all said their rents had risen this year. Most reported increases of 10 to 25%, although some said monthly payments had doubled or tripled. Their options were increasingly limited, too. Many said they had bought trailers after being priced out of apartments, homes, and condominiums and were now unsure of where to go next. They had used up their savings or taken on high-interest loans to buy manufactured homes with little resale value. Some were considering moving into motels, crashing with friends, or living in their cars until they could find a more permanent arrangement. They go on with some more examples there, guys. Encourage you to read the rest of the piece if you are interested. But think about this. If people pour a significant portion of their savings into a mobile home and then can't afford the rent, what kind of situation is that leaving them in, right? That's absurd. And then, like they said, they're caught in this limbo where if you're renting, you're at least supposed to have certain protections where your landlord takes care of a lot of the maintenance and things of that nature. So that's the supposed benefit to renting, even though you're pissing away your rent every month. And the benefit to home ownership is that you actually own the thing, and as if its value appreciates, you get to see that appreciation. Well, with people who own a manufactured home and live in a mobile park, they're kind of losing out on both supposed benefits. They're stuck in this limbo. Imagine saving up to buy one of these homes for $100,000+, and then after pouring your savings and your whatever assets you have into this manufactured home, now you can't afford the land on which it sits, and you can't afford to move it. Quite literally stuck between a rock and a hard place here. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that big private equity firms like Blackrock are coming in and buying up these plots of land and then jacking the rent through the roof. We also covered months ago, there was a story about how private equity was coming in and buying up entire parks and then increasing like fees, this kind of thing, just gouging residents in any way that they possibly can. And a lot of these people, you guys, a lot of these people are like on Social Security, on a fixed income. It's a lot of retirees. So again, rock hard place. Not much you can do about it, right? For that group of people, I don't think there's anyone in the country that's arguing that people should have to continue working themselves to death into their twilight years, right? So they should be able to survive on their fixed income. They should receive enough on Social Security to live. But the combination of not receiving nearly enough and then being gouged in this manner by private equity is wreaking havoc on people's ability to live any sort of reasonable, let alone enjoyable lifestyle in their retirement. So there's the American dream for you, right? The American dream is essentially being exploited by BlackRock. Congratulations, right? Anyhow, important stuff to understand how these private equity giants impact the various industries and markets, and it's always in a negative way. Surprise, surprise, right? Surprise, surprise.